Gramps,
Hey,
we're doing it.
we're doing it. And you
We're
weren't
back
muted.
out. No, I'm trying to become a little better with not coming on muted. It's been okay so far. So we'll
Nice.
keep we'll keep it up. We'll see how it's going there. Let me see if I can get back into the post position over here. And welcome everybody to Second Lap with Robbie Mattson. Robbie has already walked the Earth's circumference, 24,902 miles. Sometimes I don't know when I update these things or not, but Robbie, correct me on that. And we have an update. We have an update on how many miles Robbie has walked already. Where are we at
30,
today, Robbie?
33,033.
Excellent. I just saw your text. We'll have to update it right now. So we're at 33,033. Here we go. We'll do this over here. All right. We're looking pretty good, man. So how are your feet feeling?
You know, honestly, I'm due for a pair of shoes. So they're a little on the, hey, we're barking side, but it happens.
We were talking recently about, well, I guess first of all, always just want to lay the groundwork, just kind of reset things too. Considering that Robbie is on a second lap, he's learned so much from the first lap that we're getting into a few things here. All things kind of business, obviously health and walking, and then also love and relationships. If you don't know what Robbie has really going, is that he plays relationship manager, right? Family counselor, basically for Fortune 500 companies. Just making sure that we can kind of that he brings all things together in terms of project management and making those sales, right?
Right. And it's relationship management as well. I mean, there's obviously, sales that happen as a sales guy, but I transact, say, 3 or 4 transactions a year. And then the rest of the time it's around management of the customer and their experience and all of the things that go along with it. So it is, I would venture to say, a lot more than just making that transaction.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Definitely don't want to minimize it down any more than that. So I want to jump into business and stuff here. Because, thinking right now, I know within our community, within one of our communities, because I know that you are very big into many communities, very well regarded. But overall, I want to get into the discussion that we were talking about recently around different kind of soft skills, the soft skills that you definitely know. And maybe we can kind of find ones that maybe aren't so typical, right? We definitely know about curiosity. I think we know about certain things around empathy, kindness, whatever else. Right. But if we dug a little bit deeper, right, out of the other kind of soft skills that we definitely know, what are we looking at? What are those things that you think make you who you are different than maybe someone else that's in your position?
I don't know that I'm unique to any, situation. I will say this with without ego and as humbly as I can. I think I bring, and I think we talked a little bit about this before, the ability to listen, to focus on really sort of comprehending what it is that's actually being said. What is the situation, using mirroring, using, the idea that perspective and everybody brings their own training ground, and all, even down to the word means something different to a different person. So being able to listen very openly and really focus on what is it that they're trying to do, what are they trying to, what's going to make them happy, and that side of it versus just looking at everything as the same and being a blanket.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And health, I want to kind of bring this in because as we search for soft skills, and I know the soft skill that you just brought in that maybe you haven't mentioned as directly before is just the overall perspective on things, right? And obviously your perspective and someone else's perspective. I'm curious about this one thing, okay? Are you ready for this one thing? I want to ask you about being persuasive, right? Or persuasion as a soft skill, because I'm assuming that there is a lot of moments where maybe you're biting your tongue in business, where you're trying to make sure that you're being this mediator between different ideas and thoughts and dollars and whatever else is happening there. But do you feel as if you need to step away from being so persuasive, or do you think that there's a more tactful way that you kind of have to approach this before giving like your full out opinion on things?
For anybody that really wants to understand what perspective means, go watch the Showtime, HBO Max, whatever it is these days. It's an old show called The Affair. And it's a
Oh,
show where you watch 30 minutes and you're watching a scene and you're getting their idea. And then you're watching the next 30 minutes and it's the exact same scene through somebody else's eyes. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize that could even be what somebody could think. I think back to the questions you're asking, persuasion, the art of seduction, the the silver tongue, whatever the turn is that people use. Yeah, it can be used in a dangerous way.
yeah,
And you want to watch how you use it. I will give you an example. So for me, I found out as I was making a transaction that I don't really, how can I say this aloud? I don't really focus on what I'm going to make. I really focus on just having a life and doing what I'm doing. And, they'll put out spiffs, which in the world of what I do means, hey, we want you to focus here and we'll give you some more money if you focus here.
yeah,
I was closing a deal and the deal had these multipliers. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize there was multipliers. And customer always does a 2-year deal. And if I did a 3-year deal, then I got an extra 20%, which is, think about making 20% more than you made last year. It's not small. And I took and decided not to use my persuasive skills and focus on, hey, let's get a 3-year deal out of this. And really just focused in on customers never done anything more than 2. This is what they're doing. This is how it makes sense. And in that case, didn't let loose my power of persuasion with even a big carrot sticking out there because they knew it was kind of a waste of energy and there were downsides to me pushing somebody to do what they weren't normally going to do. Does
okay,
that make
yeah.
sense?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, it definitely sounds as if it's something where you are holding back a little bit on what you know may be best for it could be either both parties. I hear you. You've already mentioned twice that the dollar is not really the focus on what's really going on or what you're going to make on that. And I definitely would agree, especially when someone's passionate about what they're able to do. Um, but I think it's a good reminder that, one, loved The Affair. My wife watched it all the time. So this is the issue with my wife. Whenever she would watch The Affair, she would watch The Affair at night.
Yep.
Then I would go to bed. I maybe would get up a little bit, in the middle of the night. She'd still be on the couch trying to watch the show, but she'd be asleep. And then what would happen is the next night she would start the show over again from where I saw it. So I basically feel like I watched the show without
Right.
ever sitting down to actually watch it. But
Okay.
but it was definitely a good show, and I think that whole side of perspective, I like what you're saying there because it's kind of like a story told from both ends, where you wouldn't really see the other side of it, which I think is just so important, and it's a really good analogy. So I like that.
I have to use it as an example. I'm a picture or visual guy. I think that's how they say it. So I needed that was actually yes, it was a good show. I enjoyed it. It was a little risque from time to time. Had both male and female interests, so it was good. And
Risque. It was like it was just full. It's like full on sex scenes sometimes. I feel like
okay, that's what an old guy says, risque. When you get a little bit older, Ryan, you need to turn
no,
into just say risque.
that's okay. It's a little do.
But that is where I was able to finally literally snap and go, oh crap! I now know what the definition of perspective means, and you can listen to different stats like people that what do they do? If you ever find that I'm a very, very curious person and somebody will say something and I start to look into it and they talk about eyewitnesses. Like, have you ever heard of these stats? Like, when people are like, yeah, there was an eyewitness, and how like 50+% of whatever the eyewitness saw is
Oh,
usually wrong. or didn't happen. It's like,
Yeah. Yep.
we inject things, we see things. I'm in the computer business. We are blank, large, dull hard drives at birth, and we just start to absorb this information, and we grow these perspectives, these beliefs. And I've gone through some where it's like, wow, I can't believe I felt that way about that thing. And yeah, so perspective for me, I think perspective is my superpower. It's just being able to
All right.
understand that if I'm trying to put the situation that's in front of me in my mind and play what I'm thinking, there's a good chance I'm not thinking what they're thinking, and I'm going to be wrong in my assumptions. Perspective.
Then I have another question on that side.
Yeah.
For some reason, this is kind of where I'm thinking right now, is that sometimes it's hard to gain perspective on someone's side of their story or their situation or whatever's going on. And I think it's because sometimes people are maybe withholding information. Maybe they're not lying so much, or they're afraid to divulge some kind of information. And so it might be really hard to kind of get into really the full on conversation when you can't get all the details. Do you ever find that you need to really dig to kind of get someone's like true perspective, whether it's because they're hiding something, or they're unable to express or put into words what they're actually thinking?
I mean, I don't want to tell you all of my secrets, but I guess that's what this is about. I try and not assume. Ask the question one more time, just to make sure I'm answering the question that you're asking. I'm stopping
Okay.
moving.
No, it's okay. I'm going to give an analogy. It's the same thing as when we hire a lawyer to help us out. Maybe I've never done this, so I'm saying we, but
Right.
let's say we hire a lawyer. We want that lawyer to help us out, but we might not tell the lawyer everything, right? And so then when the questions come, when that lawyer needs to now start to protect you, well, you didn't tell them this one detail. So now, that might come out in the worst way. So I'm just thinking about like this perspective. Maybe you have a client that's not telling you everything or is afraid to share something. And so it's hard for you to actually gain true perspective. And maybe you realize this, and maybe you have to do a little bit of digging for some people. Do you ever find that you're in that position?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. ADD kicks in, and I'm in Mexico. I
Oh,
would say
no,
that I and my wife has been with me 9 years, so she can see it. My mom, parents, people, they can see it. I will have a conversation, and I will ask, inquire, attack. I guess the wrong way, but just it's kind of illustrated of being on high alert. But I will ask until I get the answer to the question I'm looking. I mean, if you're not going to tell me the answer, I'm going to I that's where if I'm going to turn on my superpower, I can ask Ryan enough questions that you will answer a question that you didn't even realize I was asking, because I can't. I mean, it's not. It's like me being able to show you that I can turn myself invisible. You just have to take my word for it. I can't do it on command. But if I get
Yeah.
in a situation and I'm trying to ask the question, so to your point, if I don't really understand, so for me, I've gone by the handle too logical, like TOO logical, like Mr. Spock.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
I get into where I had to disengage from that, because I'll use that as a buffer. Like, I will look at a situation, I will look at it through the eyes of Spock. I will be like, man, this, and they talk about this, right? The amount of your nervous system, whatever it is that's in your gut, go with your gut, listen to your gut, all those kind
Okay.
of things.
Sure.
Yeah, you'll feel it. I will feel it in my gut. I will know there's more to what's going on than what's being presented. To your point, I'm the lawyer and you're telling me. I will keep asking until I find out, okay, you had 4 affairs before and you've been divorced 3 times. Okay, now that makes a lot more sense why we're having this conversation. And I probably went way farther than the analogy that you were looking for, but
It's all good.
yes, I will ask questions until I can find out. And then if I don't, like, I don't want to make assumptions. So if I can't, are get it going forward. What I will do, and if I'm looking at it from a business perspective, is I will use alternative channels. So I transact through business partners. I'll have my business partner ask questions. I will go to other contacts within the organization and I will ask questions. I will, find find out somebody that they're connected through social networks like LinkedIn and these, networks that we have that we've got, supposed connections, and it's not just for getting a job. And I'll find somebody that knows and they can tell you, hey, this is, and there's good and bad, right? If somebody's like, hey, I wouldn't waste your time because this is what this guy said and this is what's going to happen, and then you go just act kind of dopey and like you didn't know, and sometimes you might win, but at least in the background, if you don't win, hey, there was a reason, and do I want to waste my time? So time allocation, things like that. But
Yeah.
I'm way
Okay.
off tangent.
No, you're not off tangent. I think it's definitely good there because I was trying to, there's a bridge here, knowing that you speak of leading with love. I know that you're in a great relationship right now. I think all these things that you are doing in life are things that we can all really, really look up to. And a lot of people will take these soft skills or what they do at work and they can kind of bring them home. Now, I don't know if an accountant is going to be able to bring some of the things that they learn so much and bring it right into their relationships. But I think exactly what you're doing, you're able to bring these things into your relationship at home, which I think is definitely so great. And when you are reminding us, and like, obviously outside of the idea of the affair, all that kind of stuff there, but I think gaining that perspective and making sure that we're kind of coming home and developing this relationship with our loved ones and making sure that we are thinking about all the possibilities of why we're thinking or why we're feeling or that gut reaction, and making sure that we're communicating that, I think back at home is going to be so important. And I think when I see you posting pictures of you and your partner, I think it's just such an amazing thing, and saying, man, this guy definitely knows, I feel like, really how to connect and how to make those things happen at home. So again, it's something to look up to. And it's not just you from a relationship standpoint at home. It's not just like, hey, you know what, he knows how to love and he knows how to give love, but he knows how to actually translate this into the business world, which I think is something that I think people want and they need, and that's what you have to offer.
I appreciate it. I'll take the compliment. I think what I'll say,
You're not
no,
taking the compliment. No, you're not. You're about to now throw it back in my face.
I am very grateful for your perspective, and I appreciate the comment. My ADD was kicking in, and that my secret is I'll acknowledge it, but I'm like trying to get to where I don't want to forget what I was going to tell you. Um, it's there's like too much of anything. Like people have died from drinking too much water. Like too much of anything is bad for you.
Okay.
And so I guess my caution here and what I was saying earlier, I don't use my power of persuasion on my bride every
Oh,
day
sure.
because that would be unfair, right? She's an artist and she has other skills, and I would be Geppetto, and that would be like boring as hell, and it would be just dumb. And I'm trying to think of the right word to say, but so I like that I am able to turn that off and to understand and just be Gramps and not some master negotiator all the time. And I try to share that because she'll ask questions like this. She'll say, hey, whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm not using my superpower. Like this is genuinely what I'm curious. I want to, know. And I am extremely curious. That's probably a word I've been using since before it was cool to say. I've always been interested. I've always like, hey, what's in this box? I mean, I didn't not. My mom can hear this, so I think they know most of my secrets now. I did not know what I was getting for Christmas, like until I was like 18 years old. Like I would go into the closet and I would open up. I mean, they got to the point where they would tape up stuff and I would untape. I could retape wrapped packages. I mean, I just always wanted to know. I have this thing where I needed to know, and that's something I've gotten really better as I've gotten older. Is I like surprises now.
Okay, got it. Are you good with I know you like them, but are you good with surprises? I know that I'm not good with surprises. Like, yeah, I'm
It
not great with
depends on it
surprises.
depends on the situation, right? Everything's nuanced. Everything's whatever. For the most part, my 40th birthday, I was on the phone with my mom in a parking lot getting some ice, and I got home and she walked in the front door. they live 2,000 miles away. That was a surprise. That was positive. There are other times when the surprise happens and you're like, no, that wasn't good. And so I understand it. So it's not just, it's not a blanket. I'm better at handling them now because I know that a lot of people that aren't me think surprises are fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I also love watching people get scared, by the way. It's one of my favorite things. You know those videos like jump scares, but like not to me. I just like watching people get scared. So sometimes when I think of surprises, that's really what I think about. I wanted to get over to walking with the little bit of time that we have left here.
Yep.
Walking just like almost at like the surface level of what this all is. Well, I guess this isn't so surface, but um, I wanted to ask because there's always this bridge that, I think trying to connect, bring the walking in, especially midday. You have some meetings. We know that people aren't moving enough most of the time, right? Trying to make sure, and this is what I always tell people too, Robbie, the people that find, especially from a health standpoint, from a body composition standpoint, I found this is completely observation because I always practice off of evidence-based nutrition.
Right.
But overall, I always say that, you know what, it's the clients that are usually walking like 12 to 15,000 steps in a day that tend to mitigate any of the challenges that come along with, lifestyle that we lead today. So I'm always asking people to, that's a target. It doesn't mean that you have to be there right away, but we
Right.
just have to kind of shoot for that. But I think I wanted to ask about specifically these benefits, right? There definitely could be some sort of, let's say, muscle maintenance, cardio protective type of things here. But mental and emotional health is where I wanted to go with this. How do you think walking has really affected your mental and emotional health?
Yes.
And maybe it hasn't. I don't know.
I don't know if I would say it's why this has saved my life. I mean,
Okay.
I was a hate to lose kind of a guy instead of a likes to win. I've learned to, appreciate the losses, and so I've gone through a lot of these. I've gone through a lot of cycles and changes, and I apologize. I'm walking, as and there's wind, and I can't tell. Sometimes it sounds okay to me, but you can't hear me, so
Oh,
that's why
good.
you see me. That's why you see me pausing from time to time. So I mean, I think I've used this analogy with you. It's like the Snickers commercial. Annie, Emmy, my bride, however we want to describe her, she will look at me and say, "You can go take a walk now." Like it, she can just feel it. It's the energy that I have. It's not being able to. I mean, I think me walking is, as I said before, it's like me defragging my hard drive. Like it gives me the opportunity to clean up my shelves, and it allows me to think through previous conversations. I don't know if this is another superpower, but I do have this ability, and I don't know if I've just trained myself or if other people can do it, and I'm just not aware. But I can go back and not rehab, but re-listen to your and my last conversation in my head and see kind of somewhere on the tape where something happened, or maybe I missed something before the first time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I can do that while I'm walking. I will walk, and I have pages and pages and pages and multiple different files in my phone in my notes tab. Some where I've dictated the first chapter to a book as an example. Others where I've put lists together like, hey, these are my 13 people, and I think they're going to be the foundation of what makes me successful the rest of my life. That kind of thoughts. I mean, yes, mentally, emotionally, your eyes are connected to your brain. So emotionally and mentally, walking is changed my life. It's something that I've, now done for coming up on, well, officially for 10 years by Fitbit, but my first jobs after, while during high school or after the military, I would walk, with my business partner. I'd walk with other, people. So I've always, you know, found enjoyment from walking. It was, kind of being reintroduced to it at a later time, and the whole Fitbit concept that really gamified it to the point where it put it on my radar and I started to think about it. Then David Goggins obviously took it to a whole new level. And so, yes, the long answer to your question is mentally and emotionally. It is the squelch knob on the CB. It is the fast forward rewind. It's the remote control of the TV. Whatever. It gives me the ability to go out and to think, clear my head, go to school. I would say one of the things I've been thinking about as we've been talking about this is it's amazing that I've listened to 230 books. Like that's a lot of time, and
Yeah.
I thank my wife for being willing to let me leave the house for that 12,000 hours and getting out and listening and get to it. But my point is that I think in my badge that I'm wearing on my chest is that I've got a couple of college degrees in knowledge that I've listened to through biographies and just how to be better books. And I have all that to be thankful to this walking. And I think I guess this is the long way around the tree again. What I found that I think is some of the struggle, because I look at friends, family, relatives, people that I've been around and are motivated by what I'm doing. And then I see them kind of fall off. And I'm always trying to figure out, well, what is it that caused you not to want to do it anymore? And my hypothesis is like the rest of the humans, people don't know what to do when they're bored. They don't know how to be bored. And so I think they don't know how to fill the time. And I can just imagine dreading, hey, I'm going to go walk this 6 miles, the loop that I'm on right now, and thinking, God, what am I going to do for 100 minutes? Like, that's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
an obstacle that I think gets in the way of people. So,
Well, it comes down to, I was talking with someone recently about the definition of themselves, the definition of what they wanted, and they were having a challenge in how they were approaching a health goal for themselves. And,
right.
they're asking about, where, like, how do I find that motivation? What do I do? I keep doing this. And I know that my answer to this person was something I give often, but I basically tell someone that, you just have an identity problem. You have a problem with your identity because what you're not defining yourself is is as the person that you want to be. And so
Right.
you will fall back to where you're most comfortable. So if someone finds that they're not comfortable with the silence or comfortable with the walking or comfortable with the distance at which they're going to find themselves away from home, yeah, they're not going to be able to walk that way. I think that becomes such a such a hard thing. But I love I love how you say go to school, because I think it gives people more of a purpose, and I think it's another way to kind of like fill the time or kind of fill that silence for people, which may not be the best thing, but I do think it's a way for someone to define themselves. It's not that you want to be a walker, but maybe you want to be someone who's more introspective by listening to this book, or you want to be more educated, or you want to, read a little bit more or listen more, whatever it's going to be. But it all comes down to how that person is defining themselves, which is why they tend to fall off, is what I find. Would you agree with that?
1,000%. That's why
Yeah.
I tag myself as a walker. I talk about being a walker. I mean, I self identify to make sure that I know and people around me know that it's something that's important to me. And it helps on the negative side, helps, if somebody's feelings are getting hurt because you're not spending as much time with them, put on a pair of shoes, lace up, come with me. I'll take the earbuds out. I love walking with Annie. I mean, we walk with earbudless most of the time, unless we're in the midst of a good book that we're sharing, and that's one of the I guess spousal sides of it. You can still enjoy, as you said, we're walking, but I can put an earbud in, she can put the other earbud in. We can still hear each other with our opposite ear, and we can talk, but at the same time we're listening. And if walking the dog or walk up on somebody, one of us will mute the book while we're waiting and talking. And yeah, it's something I think I've identified myself as a walker. And I think to close out on that thought is I the blank hard drive and education and listening to books, and why I say I'm going to school is I'm really trying to be as, I don't know what the right one word, if there is right one word. I mean, compassionate, empathetic, those words you've used. My wife, when forced to give one word to describe me, used the word kind, and I've worn
Okay.
that as a badge of courage. So don't know. That's what my goal is. I want the mental side of it after the physical side was accomplished.
I hear it. It just sounds like there's so many things that I feel like the walking itself, there's not enough words to put behind it because I think it's like anything. Someone who has built 1,000 homes, or someone that's been able to, build so many businesses or raise so many kids. I feel that there's something to learn from all those things, and I think sometimes walking needs to get even that much more credit. And so I think you're the person to definitely do that. And if we can get more people moving, I think it's going to be good. Robbie, is there any last words that you want to give to everyone as you are as you're moving along right now?
I'm not a political person. I'm not participating in the political stuff that's going on. I would tell you that I would hope everybody can be extra compassionate, nice, kind. Remember the other person isn't a color, they're a human, and just try and get through this next week as best as we can. And at some point, I hope these words of unity and we're all just, meat puppets. I hope at some point, more of us decide to get along and lead with love, because there's no reason for us to just continuously be being barraged with fear messages, which is what the last couple of weeks have really felt like to me.
Ugh,
So
I hear you on that. It's a good message for sure. All right, Robbie. Enjoy the rest of your walk, and I'll be back next week here
appreciate you,
on
sir.
Second Lap
Thank you.
with Robbie Mattson. Yeah. See you soon. Bye.
All right, take care.